Welcome back, viewers. You are once again with Bring the Fact. This time, we will uncover the hidden side of a major event that has captured the world's attention. Israel has launched a powerful strike on Yemen's capital following a Houthi missile attack, an incident that not only shook the Middle East, but also raised questions about the fragile balance of regional power. How did this confrontation escalate so quickly? And what lies beneath the surface of this deadly exchange? Stay with us, because what we found goes far deeper than the headlines. But before we dive in, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. That way, you won't miss the hidden facts we will continue to reveal. On the morning of August 24, 2025, the fragile balance of the Middle East was shaken once again. Yemen's Houthi movement, a group aligned with Iran and deeply engaged in the Gaza conflict narrative, launched a ballistic missile armed with cluster submunitions. The missile was directed toward Israel's Ben Gurion airport, one of the busiest and most strategic air hubs in the region. Israeli defense systems responded swiftly, intercepting most of the missile before it reached its intended target. Yet fragments rained down over central Israel, sparking fear and chaos among civilians. This marked the first known use of such cluster-type weaponry by the Houthis since 2023, a development that immediately raised alarms about the rebels' growing capabilities. The Houthis have long framed their operations as an extension of resistance against Israel, declaring solidarity with Palestinians in Gaza. Their campaign, however, has expanded beyond rhetoric. Over the past year, they have repeatedly targeted international shipping routes in the Red Sea, fired drones and missiles toward Israeli territory, and disrupted global trade. This latest attack employing cluster munitions sent a stark warning that the stakes had escalated. Unlike conventional warheads, cluster submunitions scatter small explosives over a wide area, increasing the risk of indiscriminate harm. Military analysts warned that the Houthis' adaptation of such technology demonstrated a shift in both strategy and intent. Inside Israel, the reaction was immediate and tense. Air raid sirens had already alerted residents across parts of Tel Aviv and surrounding cities, forcing families into bomb shelters. Although the Iron Dome system successfully neutralized much of the missile, the psychological impact was unavoidable. Videos circulating online showed civilians running for cover, parents shielding children, and emergency services rushing to assess the damage caused by debris. Even without mass casualties, the symbolism of the attack was clear. The Houthis had managed to directly challenge Israel on its own soil. For many in Israel, this was not just another missile. It was a statement of intent from a force often underestimated. The international community responded with alarm. The United Nations condemned the use of cluster munitions, highlighting their indiscriminate nature and long-lasting danger, particularly to children who may encounter unexploded fragments. Western governments, including the United States and the United Kingdom, issued urgent calls for restraint, but also reaffirmed support for Israel's right to defend itself. Meanwhile, Iranian officials remained silent, fueling speculation about Tehran's role in supplying the Houthis with advanced weaponry. Observers noted that this silence might indicate tacit approval or even direct involvement, a factor that risked widening the scope of the conflict. In Sanaa, the capital of Yemen, under Houthi control, celebrations erupted. Local media broadcast images of leaders praising the missile launch as a victory for their cause, portraying it as an act of defiance against a powerful enemy. Streets in certain districts filled with crowds waving flags and chanting slogans, while official statements framed the attack as retaliation for Israel's ongoing military actions in Gaza. This narrative found resonance among populations who viewed the Houthis as defenders of oppressed peoples across the region. Yet beneath the rhetoric, ordinary Yemenis remained anxious, aware that a retaliatory strike from Israel was inevitable and likely devastating. The Israeli response was swift and decisive. Within hours of the Houthi missile attack, fighter jets roared across the skies and headed toward Yemen. Their target was Sanaa, the capital under firm control of the Houthi movement. Explosions soon shook the city as Israeli aircraft struck several sites, including a military compound located near the presidential palace, 2 power plants, and a fuel storage facility. Witnesses described the night sky glowing orange as fire consumed parts of the targeted zones. Thick black smoke rose above the skyline, visible from miles away, while residents scrambled to safety amid the chaos. For many in the city, the sound of Israeli warplanes overhead was both terrifying and surreal, a stark reminder that the war in Gaza had now expanded into their streets. Yemeni health officials quickly reported casualties. Initial numbers cited at least 6 dead and dozens wounded, but as the hours passed, the figures climbed steadily. Hospitals in Sanaa, already strained by years of conflict and lack of resources, were overwhelmed by the sudden influx of victims. Doctors treated people with burns, shrapnel wounds, and fractures, while relatives crowded the corridors seeking news of loved ones. Ambulances rushed through the darkened streets, their sirens cutting through the roar of continuing explosions. The intensity of the strikes made rescue operations difficult, with debris blocking access to some neighborhoods. By the end of the night, authorities feared the toll would rise far higher than early reports suggested. Israeli military officials justified the operation by framing it as a necessary act of self-defense. In a statement released to the press, they asserted that the targets were carefully chosen to cripple the Houthis' ability to launch further long-range missiles. The destruction of fuel storage facilities and power plants was intended to disrupt the rebels' logistical networks. Military analysts, however, noted that the strikes also carried a symbolic weight. They demonstrated Israel's willingness to hit deep inside Yemeni territory, far beyond the immediate Gaza theater, sending a message not only to the Houthis, but also to their backers in Tehran. On the ground, ordinary Yemenis bore the brunt of the attack. Residents described scenes of devastation, collapsed buildings, shattered windows, and families huddled together in fear. In one district, power outages left entire blocks in darkness, except for the flames from burning fuel depots. Children cried as parents tried to comfort them, while rescue workers searched through rubble with limited equipment. For many, this was the worst bombardment they had witnessed in years, reviving painful memories of the broader Yemeni civil war. As the night dragged on, questions loomed about how far this new front in the conflict would extend, and whether Sanaa would face more strikes in the days ahead.
By dawn the following day, the full scale of destruction in Sanaa was beginning to emerge. Officials from the Houthi-run health ministry announced that the casualty count had risen to at least 10 dead and more than 100 wounded. Among the injured were women and children, with 21 people reported in critical condition. Scenes inside hospitals were harrowing. Patients lying on makeshift beds, doctors struggling with shortages of supplies, and families desperately searching for missing relatives. Local reporters described bloodied clothes piled near emergency rooms and exhausted medical staff working without pause. The airstrikes had not only destroyed infrastructure, but also deepened the humanitarian crisis in a country already devastated by years of war. The Israeli government defended the scale of its retaliation, emphasizing that the strikes were aimed exclusively at military and strategic infrastructure. Yet, international watchdogs raised alarms about the choice of targets, pointing to damage inflicted on power plants and oil facilities that supplied electricity to civilian areas. Footage from the scene showed thick smoke rising from a fuel depot, its flames casting an ominous glow over surrounding neighborhoods. Analysts noted that such strikes, while weakening the Houthis' capacity, also risked escalating resentment among Yemen's civilian population and fueling a cycle of further violence. Global reaction was swift and divided. The United Nations called for an immediate halt to the violence, urging both Israel and the Houthis to avoid further escalation that could destabilize the region. The United States reiterated its support for Israel's right to defend itself, while also expressing concern over the humanitarian fallout. Iran remained notably silent,
prompting speculation about its role in supplying the Houthis with advanced weapon technology. Commentators in regional media argued that Iran's shadow influence was central to the Houthis' evolving arsenal, and that silence itself was a form of endorsement. Inside Yemen, the Houthis capitalized on the strikes for propaganda. Public rallies were organized in parts of Sanaa, with leaders presenting the casualties as evidence of Israeli aggression and framing themselves as defenders of Gaza and the broader Arab cause. Chants of defiance echoed through the streets, and posters glorifying the missile launch toward Israel were displayed prominently. While these events energized their supporters, they also drew attention to the heavy cost borne by civilians caught in the middle. The dual narrative, celebration and mourning, captured the contradictions of a war that blurred lines between victory and tragedy. Military experts warned that this exchange signaled a dangerous new phase in the conflict. The Houthis' use of cluster munitions suggested both a technological leap and a willingness to employ indiscriminate weapons. Israel's willingness to strike deep inside Yemen, in turn, revealed an expanded battlefield far beyond Gaza or southern Lebanon. Shipping lanes in the Red Sea, already threatened by repeated Houthi drone and missile attacks, now faced even greater instability. The situation underscored the growing risk of regional spillover, where a single act of retaliation could ignite multiple fronts and draw in outside powers.
Thus concludes the series of facts we have uncovered today. Don't forget to subscribe to the Bring the Fact channel and activate the notification bell so you won't miss the revelation of other important facts. Bring the Fact, unveiling the truth behind every event. See you in the next fact.